I've struggled with obesity for my whole life, ever since I was a kid. And as a result, I've always had problems with my mental health and just not feeling comfortable in my own skin. And for the longest time, I didn't realize that there was a problem because I didn't know anything different and I thought it was normal. It wasn't until I took control of my health, started to pay attention to what I was eating and my exercise, that I started to actually find joy in my life and start to address some of the mental health issues that I was going through. So if you're new here, my name is Pete. I've lost over 120 pounds. I did so primarily through fasting and regular exercise. And in this video, we're going to talk about some of the mental challenges that can happen as a result of obesity and some of the techniques of how to address those problems and how they help to fix and at least improve some of those mental struggles that can come with obesity. So first of all, one of the big ones that I was really struggling with at the beginning was a problem with hopelessness, negativity, and in a way, you could say nihilism. I basically thought that, and I felt that life wasn't a good thing. It wasn't fun to be alive. I assumed that life was just a struggle and generally just a pain. And the only way that I was able to improve those thoughts and that just feeling of not enjoying my life and feeling hopeless was by first addressing the mental side of my health problems. So the big practice around this was actually gratitude. So the first step I took in my weight loss journey was actually to take a look at my mind and develop a practice of gratitude. And for me, the way that looked was a morning practice. So I noticed that when I was 280 pounds, I was just struggling and hating my life, hating myself. And right when I woke up, this thoughts would start and the negativity would start. And I needed to force myself and develop a habit around changing that. And so what that looks like now is that I immediately have a gratitude thought upon waking up. And because it's so regular now, typically it's the same thought. And that thought is, I'm grateful to be here. And in fact, I'm not a religious guy, but the way it's phrased is, thank God I'm here. Thank God for this day is really the thought. Like literally the first thought I have in the day is, thank you, God, for this day. And initially it was kind of going through a list. Thank God I can move. Thank God I have fresh water to drink. Thank God I have a family that can support and love me. And you might not have a support system of a family, but trust me, if you really think about it, there's so many things that in whatever situation that you're in, there's something to be thankful for. Thank God you're not in a war zone. Hey, and if you are in a war zone, thank God that I have, again, air to breathe. Thank God I'm here. That's the baseline, right? Thank God I'm alive, even if you're in a war zone. So gratitude helped to relieve my nihilistic thoughts and my hopeless thoughts and my thoughts of basically that the world is not a positive place. The next major issue that I had gone through in my mental health was this pattern that I had developed around isolation. So I was in this process every day of this never-ending loop with food, and I started to kind of develop social anxiety. It was hard to connect with other people. So the loop that I was in was that I would find myself eating these huge meals, basically binging on fast food and just horrible, like just the quantity of food that I would eat. And what would happen is I would just eat all this food, feel sick, and then I wouldn't want to go out, I wouldn't want to exercise, I wouldn't want to do anything. I would feel so full and so sick that I would just want to lay in my bed and recover from how ill I was feeling. And that created this loop of eating and not wanting to go out and not wanting to exercise, being sedentary. And that would feed in on itself because now I would feel unhappy and then I would want to eat, and then the loop would go on over and over and over. And as that loop continued, I would continue to gain weight. I would continue to eat and be sedentary and not connect with other people. And that would reinforce this horrible daily routine that I was getting myself into. So I was able to fix that through trial and error of finding out what was going to work for me, because I was researching weight loss, and eventually I found fasting and I found exercise. And by doing that, it broke the cycle. Through fasting, your body is able to have a rest from food, and the feeling of being hungry, that subsides. But when you're full, that pain can last for so long. Hunger, for me, I've noticed, I'll be hungry for 5-10 minutes, and then you're not. And that feeling of actually not having so much food in your system, you feel lighter and you feel more eager to live your life and to just go outside and to just be active. And that leads into the other thing, which is I've noticed that I prefer to exercise while fasted. I just feel lighter and more nimble and more ready to utilize my body. When I eat, I typically feel like resting a little bit and giving my body time to digest. So it's through what I had found with fasting and exercise that I was able to get over this anxiety, this social anxiety, and that loop that I had created for myself, because I was able to allow my body to feel empty. And when I was empty and my body had time to process the food that I had eaten, it was able to then process some of the fat I had built up on my body. And then I was feeling more ready and eager to exercise, go on a walk, go to the gym. So that got me out of that loop. And that greatly affected my mental, my happiness and my ability to just feel like I wanted to do things in life rather than just feeling constantly sick and laying in bed. Another thing that was a huge help for me was considering the actual food that I was eating. Because when I would go on these huge binges, the food I was eating, 90% of the time, it was fast food. It was salty, cheesy, tons of processed carbs. And that type of food makes you feel bad. It doesn't help with just feeling positive. I don't know the science or anything about it on a technical level. I just know it from someone who has lived experience. When you are constantly eating processed foods, fast food, in large quantities, it affects your mind. And for me, um, stopping that and eating more natural foods greatly improved just how I felt throughout the day. The flip side of that is that through fasting and through the trial and error process of seeing what worked for me, I had found that I was able to build in cheat days. So I'm going to have a whole other video about cheat days and how I do it. But basically, the cheat days are days where I'm not so strict about what I'm eating, and I'm able to branch out a little bit and have a slice of pizza or burger or whatever it is, because I still do very much enjoy those foods, but I indulge in those foods in a much more strategic way. And in my lifestyle, and probably for yours as well, food is a way that we connect with each other. And you want to go out with your friends. You want to go out and have some French fries with your buddies, whatever it might be, right? And through fasting, through regular exercise, I'm allowed to have a system that allows me to do that in such a way where I don't feel guilty and I don't punish myself mentally for indulging in certain foods, because I've built a system around it. When I have cheat days, it's not about going all out and stuffing my face to a point where I'm sick of the food. I have built a system where I can go out with friends, go out with family, enjoy certain foods, maybe even indulge in alcohol or whatever it is, and just sort of live more normally, but also just in a more healthy way. And that is a social practice, right? So sometimes when we get into a weight loss journey, it's like we continue to isolate ourselves because we're on a diet. We can't participate with everyone else while they're enjoying food. When I go to a birthday party, I have some cake. But what I do is, if the cake is totally encrusted in frosting, I scrape some of it off. And that like tablespoon or two of frosting that I just scraped off, I maybe saved myself another 200 calories. So little techniques like that I've developed over time has just allowed me to build in the mindset that I can really live normally and I don't isolate myself just because I'm focused on my health. I'm integrated with society and I can connect with people through food with a strategy that allows me to continue to prioritize health. The next major mental health challenge that I had to overcome was around my image, my shame, my confidence level, and generally my low self-esteem. And in my experience, the only way to finally achieve some improvements around that was actually seeing results. When you're on a weight loss journey, you don't actually see any changes for a while. At least in my case, it can take months, and those months go by really slowly. That being said, when you get into a stride and you really develop a routine and a lifestyle that is working and that you enjoy and that feels like something that you can do for life, you start to see results. You start to lose 30, 40 pounds. In my case, I started to see the changes, once I started to lose 50 pounds plus. At this point, I've lost over 120 pounds. And the mental health aspect of my image and my self-confidence, it's reinforced actually every day. When I wake up and I look in the mirror, I don't see the same person. And that doesn't happen just once. That happens every day. And I continue to focus on my health. So my physical body continues to improve. I'm continuing to be dedicated in the gym and around my fitness. So I'm starting to experience more tone in my physical body. As that continues to happen, all of that shame and low self-esteem and issues around like body image issues, it's beginning to melt away. And I know I'm going to carry that for life, right? Because I've had decades of that shame and not being comfortable in my own skin. But as I continue on and as I develop my body and continue to see results, that mental issue, which was huge, and I didn't think it would ever go away, and it might not, I can feel it start to melt away. And it's somewhat unfortunate because I'm not able to just snap my fingers and feel confident. That confidence comes with the results. And along with the confidence comes with the willingness to be more aware and just willing to think about my appearance and think about my fashion, think about my grooming. These were things that I paid zero attention to as someone that was 280 pounds. I wore whatever was cheapest. I did not care about putting any effort into how I looked. I basically, for lack of a better term, was kind of a slob. And I didn't realize it at the time because that had just been how I carried myself. But that lack of attention and lack of care that I was giving to how I looked reinforced negative feelings toward myself because I didn't take pride in how I looked and I didn't put effort towards my own appearance. And when I finally gave myself that joy and that passion of actually trying a little bit in presenting myself in a positive way, that greatly helped my mental health. I'm able to look in the mirror and like who I see. And again, it's not about the vanity, because we want to look good. Everyone wants to look good. We all want to just look our best. But what it is about is the comfort when you don't look in the mirror and immediately there's like a mental trigger that's negative. If you have just positive feelings about your own identity, that's going to just translate in just a more positive mental health outcome, rather than just ignoring how you look and just assuming that you don't like the way you look. Lastly, and possibly the most difficult challenge mentally that I've had to address is my addiction to food, as well as all the scars of a lifetime of being obese. So I know that my addiction to food is going to last for my whole life. And same thing with the scars of all the past, of everything I went through while I was living with obesity. But going through this weight loss journey, I've instilled a sense of hope in life, and I've given myself the trust I have in myself to do hard things. I look at the future and I say, okay, well, I know I'm going to battle this addiction and this kind of draw towards overeating, but I know I'm a strong person. I know that I've proven to myself that I'm someone that cares about themselves, that values life, and that is resilient. And when you grow up with obesity, there's so many like stories and heartbreak that has happened as a result of my obesity. Getting a little personal here, and I'm sure if you struggled with obesity, you deal with a lot of rejection, friends, romantic relationships, and just the pain of not feeling like everyone else. And those don't go away just because you lose weight. And I know that. But what I also know is that I now have the tools to think differently about negative things in general. I know that when I look back on the past and I recall all of the hard times that I had gone through as a result of being obese, I look at them now and I think to myself, these traumas, you could say, they just make me stronger. I now have a thicker skin because I've gone through rejection. I've gone through ridicule. When you're obese as I was, when you walk into a room, that's the first thing people see. And knowing that, I just know that I'm strong enough to battle through that and not care so much about what people think about me. And because of that, I'm able to just make decisions and live my life for me. And that is a huge benefit to me and my own mental health, because I don't have to care what people think about me. I'm on a health journey for myself and for my own health and well-being. So to summarize, the mind and the body are intrinsically linked. When we struggle with obesity, it's not just our physical body that is suffering through our habits. Our mental health is also weighing us down. And by gaining control of your physical health, your mental health also experiences dramatic improvements. And for me, that's just as powerful and potentially even more powerful than any physical changes that have happened as a result of losing weight. So if you're struggling, just like I was, with your weight, and you're going through challenges with your mental health, understand that those changes, both physically and mentally, they take time. At least they did for me. But no matter how long it takes, the strength and the habits that you are building by changing your lifestyle and addressing your addiction to food and starting to build healthier habits, these are things that no one can take away from you. And they can make an extremely positive impact on your quality of life, not just on a physical level, but so much deeper. And I hesitate to use the term spiritual, but for me, it's been a deeply spiritual experience to have suffered my whole life with obesity and just poor habits around my health, to now completely transforming my relationship to food, my relationship to my body and fitness, and as a result, the relationship to my own mind. And just as a final statement here, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice, and mental illness can definitely require medical professional assistance to help with that. For me, I just know that lifestyle is an extremely powerful thing, and by making serious changes to my behavior and how I was looking at the world, I was able to significantly improve my quality of life. So, thank you so much for watching, and if any of this resonates with you, this channel is all about weight loss, identity change, and just improving your life through health. And if you'd like to see more videos, and if you'd like to engage in the conversation, please leave a comment, subscribe, and I'd love to connect with the community about improving life and gaining control through improving one's health. So thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video.